Hi, Chris here, taking a look at another e-bike, and I've got with me a fat-wheeled one. So the 4-inch wide tyres, 20-inch rims. This particular model here is called the Engine Pro. Now it does have a claim range of around 70 kilometers, top speed of 45 kilometers per hour, and I'll be testing out the range, the top speed. I'll go over the build and the design of this one. So it does have hydraulic disc brakes front and rear. It's foldable, so it folds in half. The handlebars, they also come down, and the motor that is in this is 750 watts with 60 Newton meters of torque. The battery capacity, it's 12.8 amp hours, and it does take around about 5 to 6 hours to fully charge this model. So of course we've got those iconic chunky 4-inch wide 20-inch tires. Now these ones you don't have to pump up that much, only just to 20 psi maximum, so they do absorb quite a lot of shocks in the road and they make off-roading a little bit easier. As you can see, we do have a sturdy kickstand and Logan hydraulic brakes with 160mm discs both rear and front. Our front shock here is a no brand one. It has approximately 2.5 inches of travel, and it's definitely better than nothing. It soaks up a lot of the bumps. The rear shock offers about 1 inch of travel, just over, and it's good to have this. Their other model that they have doesn't have the rear shock here. You're probably wondering, why is there a key hanging down here? That's because there is a lock in here to lock the battery in place, which is removable. I just haven't taken the spare one off. So the key's in there, it's in the on position, so you can manually have it turned off, remove the key, and it locks that battery into place too. So there's a little weatherproof cap that goes over where the little plug is for charging it. Now charge time's about 5 to 6 hours for the 12.8 amp hour battery. And you see, we do have a rear tail light, which is great to have, but it's not very bright. It also does include a reflector, and we have a bike rack. Now they do sell a bag for this bike rack if you're interested, that you can fit a few extra things into that to carry a little bit of cargo around. For example, they're shopping or whatever. So there's seat posts that can be dropped right down nice and low to cater for 5'10" people, and right up to 6.5, it goes up very high, and the handlebars, they are also adjustable. And then for our gears here, we've got Shimano Altus, and this is an 8-speed setup. And our pedals, these are Wellgo branded ones. They're foldable and they're made out of metal. So far, no problems with these at all. Front and rear mudguards, so that means that this is going to be ideal for climates where it's wet a lot and you'll be riding perhaps in the rain or through a few puddles. The front headlight is powerful enough to light up the path ahead of us at night, and we do have a reflector as well that you can put on. That's optional, it's included in the box. And then similar to what I've seen on other bikes here, we've got the latch. So there's a little security in here that keeps it in place to make sure it's not going to pop it out. Then you just simply pull that open and you can fold the bike in half. Now this is for just really storing it away, or for example getting it into the trunk or boot of a car. And it does allow us to then slot out the removable battery, which is right here, so you can charge it in the bike or completely out of the bike. It's up to you. And our handlebars, they fold down too, so there's just this little security here. You need to lift that up, you pop the lever down, and the whole handlebars will drop right down. And this again aids us in stowing the bike away, just halving the height of it. Now our display here is one of the best things that I like about this bike. It's very large, so we can see our speed, the wattage, and you've got your different modes there. So going up and down, you can go from mode 1 right up to 5. Now mode 1 will vary too on the speed we get out of the accelerator right here. So yes, it's on the left side, the accelerator, and there's a horn. Well, a buzzer, it's quite loud. This right here is our rear brake. We have our front brake over here. This is to go up, down the gears, this one, and up the gears. And you can cycle through here too, the different modes. So pressing the I, you can see then our max speed. So I've done 40 kilometers maximum so far. 11 is my average speed, and right here the time that I've been riding, so that's 19 minutes so far. And I've done 16 kilometers. That's the odometer. There's also trip right here. So I'll be testing out that range, and I'll give you the exact kind of range you can get, because so far I've only lost 4% battery for 16 kilometers, which is really good. But I've been riding, well, mostly on the flat with a few large climbs. There's also this, which is our light, so you can manually turn the light on or off, the front headlight and the rear tail light. However, there's a sensor in this screen, so when the ambient light is, well, dark enough, it will automatically turn on the lights, which is very handy. And our seat, it's very large, comfortable. You get about 1 inch or so of padding. And so far riding on it, I do think that most people are going to be happy with this seat and probably won't change it out. Now, if you want it even softer, you could put one of those large seats on that have the springs on them. But I think what they've gone with here, it's sufficient enough for most people. And what I like to ride, so when you start pedaling, it takes a few seconds, and then you feel that motor kick in. Depends on what pedal level you're in, what kind of power and top speed you're going to get out of the motor. So if you're riding on 0, which is nothing, you can definitely feel it. Now the gear changes, these are very smooth. I've had no problems going through the gears. They have not been doing any mischanges or grating of the gears, nothing like that, so it's quite good there. So put it onto level 1 here, it's going to help me a little bit up this, but really level 2 is probably needed for this. Now what I like about this bike here is the handlebars are very high, so you're riding in this upright position. And I got plenty of room here for my knees. There's no way they're going to strike the handlebars at all. And how does it handle the rough stuff? So I got a few little drops up here. Now these fat 4-inch wide wheels, they soak up so many bumps and they do smoothen out the ride. Now the suspension seems to work well, even though it's a no brand suspension, it is doing the job soaking out some of these bumps. So I've got a bit of a curb here and you can pop up the front wheel and, well, I just bang straight up it and the suspension can handle that. And this climb, only a short climb here, very easy with the 750 watt motor, but I'll check it out now on a big serious steep climb how it's going to handle it. So this is the spot where I test out all the e-bikes and e-scooters, and it's about a 25-30 degree gradient this climb, and I think with a heavy bike like this one, probably going to have to pedal. The motor is only 60 Newton meters, the maximum torque it outputs, but let's see how it fares. I'm just using the accelerator right now to start out here with this climb, and it's struggling. We're losing speed now down to 9 kilometers per hour. So the 750 watt motor with its 6 Newton meters of torque really does need you to pedal on such steep climbs. So now I'm pedaling, I'm in the second gear, and away we go. This is not that difficult. So it can do this climb, but yes, you certainly do need to pedal a little bit. Now you can hear some squeaking. That's actually coming from the seat. I've tightened the seat up, but it still wants to squeak, which is really annoying. Now my braking performance test. So I'm going to go down here, get up to about 30 kilometers per hour and test out the brakes. So they're hydraulic brakes, 160 millimeter discs, pretty standard. So we're up to now 20 kilometers. I'll get to 30, which should be about now, and full on brakes. Whoa. Doesn't brake too bad there. You got plenty of pressure, and the front wheel certainly has a lot of grip with those knobbly tires, and the front suspension helps out with the braking pressure there. So I'd rate these brakes as average. They're sufficient enough for a heavy bike like this. And just up ahead here, I've got quite rough, crazy paving. How are the wheels going to handle this, and the suspension? Well, it's doing a pretty good job of soaking up all these bumps. You can probably see handlebars are bouncing around all over the place. But with those fat wheels, it certainly does make this a lot easier than a lot of those e-bikes that I review that have just the skinny 20-inch wheels, or even the 14-inch ones, which are quite bumpy along this road. And I've made it now to the end of Las Rodas. Beautiful spot here in the Mediterranean coast of Spain. The ride so far has been very good. It's such a cruisy bike. The upright position with the high handlebars I actually do like. Okay, so what about the range now? That's very important. The battery gauge is a little misleading. A lot of the time it will drop down to 90% and then it will bounce back up to 100% and show me that I'd done, well, 19, 20 kilometers or 16 kilometers and not lost any battery at all, that's misleading because really it's about 80% there. So you're looking around 50 to 60 kilometers range with a few climbs that I'm able to get. That is, however, on the pedal assist mode 3, 4, and sometimes 5 that I was using. If you're just going to be using it in what is the basic moped mode, just accelerating using the accelerator here, then expect that to only be about 20 kilometers. It's going to really burn through it. It gets the best range when you are also pedaling, of course. Now, as I pointed out, with the steep climbs, you will have to put a little bit of pedal power into it. It's not going to be able just to get you up there without pedaling at all. If you use just the motor again accelerating, eventually, if it's steep enough, the speed will drop right down and you're taking a huge hit on the battery too there, so I wouldn't really do that. Battery charge time is 5 to 6 hours, it's removable, and of course the bike does fold in half, the handlebars come down, and it's not something I would be doing a lot of is folding it down because it's very heavy. So you can, yes, as I showed you, fit it into the boot of a car, but wow, it is around 30 kilos, the weight of this, so it's really quite heavy. Now that motor, 750 watts, got about 60 Newton meters of torque. Not the most powerful I've come across, but it does do a very good job. Can get you up to 45 kilometers per hour if you're pedaling away. If you're just using pedal assist mode number 5, and then the accelerator, if you're flat and you've got a long stretch, you should be able to reach then up to around 35, 40 kilometers it will top out at. The gears, I've not had any problems with them, even though the gears are basic Shimano Altus here. They're nothing high end. They change, they're crisp, the movement of them, and I haven't had it great gears or any problems like that. Braking performance is not too bad. I was expecting a little bit worse, but the hydraulic brakes seem to do a decent job. And we've got the 160mm discs. Front braking, because of the extra wide tires with the knobbly tires on it, I do find that does aid in our braking performance, especially from the front with the front shock. So no brand shocks on this. It's normally what you're going to get around this price grouping. So we have about 2.5 to almost possibly 3 inches of travel from the front shock. You can lock it out completely, which is good. It is adjustable and definitely better than nothing. The rear shock, it's got about 1 inch of travel, and it does an okay job. It's better than nothing, again, having the shocks. The tires themselves will soak up a lot of bumps because, well, they're the fat tires 4-inch wide. If you run a lower PSI, so it's about 20 maximum, if you run only about, say, 18 or 17, you can soak up a few little more bumps there. Now, we do have the bike rack. You can get a bag for that. And the rear tail light is one of my complaints here. I don't like it that much because it's not very bright. It's very dull. It should have a much brighter LED, and I hope they can swap that out for something a little better. The front headlight is good, and I do like the fact it's got both of the lights there. So what are the other things I don't like about it? Well, there are, apart from the weight too, it's very heavy, there are a few creaks coming out of the seat. I've tightened it up, but it's still creaking. The mud guards, which are made out of metal, they do occasionally rattle around or vibrate a little bit from the motor. The motor makes a bit of noise. The tires are quite noisy with the road noise, as you can imagine. If you're on the road, those knobbly tires, it definitely makes a bit of noise there. So this is the Engine Pro. Thank you so much for watching my review here. Hope you did like it. Do subscribe for more up and coming videos from me, because I will be covering another couple of e-bikes this month. So do stay tuned for those.